It may not have been first, it may not have been the most graphically advanced, but no console has had the galvanizing effect that the Atari 2600 had on the video game industry and on society in general. We recently picked up the Atari 80 games in one collection for the PC. You get all your favorites for the 2600, as well as some classic arcade games. All your old favorites are here. Asteroids, Missile Command, Centipede. Who can forget Math Grand Prix? Ha! It's worth noting that the minimum system requirements to play these games is a 200 megahertz computer with 16 megs of RAM and a DirectX 7 compatible video card. I'm sure this won't be a problem for any of you, but come on, 200 megahertz just to play an Atari game? The 2600 clocked in at a blazing 1.2 megahertz for crying out loud. Another issue with the PC port. The keyboard controls lack the pure responsiveness of the original 2600 joystick and paddles. Plus, the fact that using a keyboard in place of the original one-button joystick seems, for lack of a better word, sick and wrong. There is a key difference between these early manifestations of video games and the current games we play. Beyond the obvious graphical improvements, beyond the advances in cinematic storylines. Simply stated, most early video games were impossible to win. There is no princess to rescue. No matter how many aliens you blast, asteroids you destroy, or missiles you shoot down, they just keep coming. Faster and faster, until you eventually succumb to the soothing caress of death. So perhaps the most devastating effect video games have had on our society stems not from bad-on-hooker violence or gravity-defying breast physics. Perhaps the true horror that early video games forced us to acknowledge is the fact that in the end, all life is ultimately a futile pursuit of an imaginary dream of perfection that can never be reached. That, and it's really fun to zap little squiggly things. The Atari 80 games in one collection for the PC is a great resource for those desperate to relive their lost youth. Unfortunately, from the iffy controls to the so-so handling of classic vector graphics games like Tempest and Battlezone, there's enough missing from this collection to knock it down a couple of notches. We give it a 3 out of 5.